St. Lucia, this is Open Mic, and it's always wonderful to be back with you on a Sunday. I guess you all have probably seen Michael Shastri on TV quite a few times this week, but this is my program, and I always come on a Sunday. But a lot has transpired this week, and although I have said many things, there's never enough time to elaborate on everything that should be addressed. But my biggest concern today is the fact that certain individuals in this country completely, should I say, continue to elaborate on something called political and economic power. I honestly think it's just a phrase taken from the international community and being applied to St. Lucia. I think at this stage of our lives, we all know that what happens in a large country is not necessarily applicable to St. Lucia. And the individuals promoting that, in my view, is nothing more than a myth. And I think the time has come when I should do my part in a very forceful manner to try my best and show St. Lucians that what is going on is nothing more than a ploy. Now, you know, people talk for business people have no right in politics. But do politicians have a right in business? That's my big question. One simply has to revisit the state of the world today. When an individual, be he a politician or whoever, receives millions of dollars of hard-earned money and has to disperse it, nobody is going to change my mind that that is a form of business. I heard certain individuals talking about, are business people socially minded? Well, if business persons were not socially minded, how on God's earth would they be running a business and keeping the employees happy for 50, 60 years without any major strikes or major contention? It's because there's an understanding of what an employer owes an employee and what an employee is willing to accept from an employer. Today, we have 25% of our working class out of work and 40% of our youth out of work. Now, tell me, if a business person were to come up with a plan today to absorb those unemployed, would it be acceptable? These are the questions we need to ask and find out what the answers are. Now, I'm going to say something to St. Lucia. A politician needs a vision, needs experience, needs responsibility, and has to be cost conscious. How often have we seen politicians embark on projects with massive cost overruns? I don't have to go too far back. We simply have to take the Vieux Fort Soufrière Highway, which was estimated at $52 million and end up costing over $104 million. Now, my role today is not to criticize anybody, but whether it was the fault of the government or whoever, it was a fault. Now just imagine if a business person was responsible for putting this road. Where would he find an extra $52 million to cover him? He would go bankrupt. So when people talk of business people not having a role to play in politics, I don't subscribe to that. But I want to say a couple of things to St. Lucia today, and that is the Castries market. The Castries market, how many St. Lucians have ever taken the opportunity to visit the back part of the market and to see the squalor under which these poor vendors operate? Across from the Castries market, Those shelters were built years ago, badly built, because they were individual homes, and water keeps pouring down. All the people's goods getting wet. I said over and over that the fire station should have been broken down. It was finally broken down after years of leaving a cracked building in the heart of town. It was finally broken down. It's nearly 1 year now, and it's just fenced off, with limited space in the Castries area, with an economy that's faltering. Would it not be prudent for somebody in power to come up with some sort of a vision whereby they could design a simple shed that can be done quite quickly, pave the ground, and divide it up for the vendors who are scattered all over Castries, pushing them around, okay, operating with bits of canvas and tarpaulins. Shed 4 and 5 has been closed for 18 years. A disgrace, just loaded with rats. There are certain individuals that say, who is Michael Chastain to advise the Prime Minister what to do? But I have said over and over again that a roof should be put on, the same truss there can be used, fix it up, paint it up, all that can be done in 6 weeks, and put 40 doors for the vendors to go in there until they find the money to do it. Where in the world, if that you see 1,800 empty containers in a city, and taxi drivers, bus drivers, and citizens alike cannot find a parking? A simple device by putting up a parking lot in the old Prince Albert Basin, adjacent to the old Banana Association. With technology today, you can get a steel structure, 40, 50 columns. They can get it from wherever they want. They can get it from China. They can get it from Taiwan. They can get it from Trinidad. They can get it from Barbados. And they can cast a concrete floor. And they can go to 1, 2, or 3 floors and park 500, 600 vehicles. In the process, at the back of the fire station was once a Bailey Bridge. That bridge has fallen down for over 8, 9 years. The government have Bailey bridges. They finally listened to what I said. Get the Bailey bridges. The bridges are here. Why can't they construct and put back a Bailey bridge so that the traffic can ease out of the Castries area? Has anybody gone and see those poor bus operators at the back of hospital in the hot sun? All the people working under bad conditions, dirty, filthy. In 2016, yet certain administrations want to take $60 and $70 million to build edifices for themselves. Yet they say that you don't need a businessman. It doesn't have to be a businessman. It needs a person with just pure common sense to do what they have to do. Down at Banans, it's just for an accident waiting to happen. You have all those chassis lined up on the road. When you have 200 acres of land owned by government in Cul-de-sac, you can backfill 5 acres, fence it off, put your containers down there. All the cars that are imported, they could be safer. There's high ground that can be used where the flooding would not attach or not affect them. And free up the port for cruise ship berths. Down at Banans, once it's cleared, why do we have 3 or 4 old sunken boats in a small harbor, such a picturesque harbor, one of the most enclosed landlocked harbors in the Caribbean, okay? A cruise ship coming in, when the person's on the top of the bridge and looks down at all that filth, do they have any appetite to return? Have St. Lucians gone to St. Martin and Aruba to see how the docks are fixed up? How can that go on? Across by the Coast Guard, there's 22 acres of land. I had that land surveyed almost 16 years ago, okay? You can put a nice type of point surf in there with another 2 cruise ship berths to come alongside. I'm not trying to put everything in Castries. Castries is the capital city. Once you have the ships coming here, everything emanates from here. The more cruise ships, the more passengers, the more tours. The restaurants can do a better business. The taxi drivers can do better. And you want to tell me that this country is being run efficiently? We talk, if these things are done, you're bringing more foreign exchange into the country. So, St. Lucia, get up, wake up, and smell the coffee. And for those people who continue to throw dust into your eyes about the Chastanet family, we are just trying to make a contribution to St. Lucia as we have done in the last 16 years. I've always felt that until a man pays a salary, he doesn't understand the value of money. They talk of social conscience. I know full well what it is. I started from nothing, from scratch, at the bottom of the ladder. I grew up. So I grew up among people struggling like many others. And all I'm saying to you, St. Lucia, is that once a person starts to pay a salary, they have both a moral and a social obligation. I defy anybody in this St. Lucia today to say that any one of our companies have treated them badly. Do people have misunderstandings? Certainly, there'll always be misunderstandings. We're human beings on both sides. But by the same token, when a person is working for you, you develop, if you didn't have it, a social conscience, because you get to know people. You understand their cries. How many people working for us today are continuously coming, especially now when banks are refusing to lend any money? We have a lending portfolio, okay, where we lend money to our staff at no interest. And as I talk about no interest, a very serious point comes to mind. And that is, with the banking situation where it is going today, where hardly or no interest is being paid. In Japan, it's a negative interest. The millions that we have at NIC, which are sitting in the banks, remember, St. Lucia, if that money is not well invested, it's losing value every day. And when we talk about social conscience, think of the people who have worked hard for St. Lucia, put their money at NIC. What's going to happen? On that score, I now turn to my guest, Member of Parliament for Castries South East, Honorable Guy Joseph. Guy, I've asked you to come in today to be my guest based upon all what I've heard about impacts, what I've heard about Dr. Trevally, and so the list goes on. I first would like to ask you whether you could touch, because last night I saw a show given by Rick Wayne, and I have to say that I was shocked to the core when I saw how Rick went in detail of that whole impact situation. You were in government, you understand that the present administrator is trying to lay some blame on your party. Can you just give me a little insight of what went on?
Okay, thank you very much, and pleasant day to all St. Lucians following the program. Before I deal even with the impacts, I would like to make a comment on the economic and social power that we have heard in the media for such a long time. Since the Labour Party started attacking the Chastanet family on their presentations or their involvement in politics. And I would like to use myself as an example. What economic power do I wield in this country that the Prime Minister of a country would come out and say that he's going to spend as much money as he has to and do whatever he has to do to get me out of the Parliament of St. Lucia? So what does that have to do with economic power or social power?
Right.
What we have in St. Lucia today is the making of a dictator in the person of Dr. Kenny Anthony. Because dictators do not just emerge one day and decide I'm running a country in a particular manner. You would see that any and everybody who can oppose Dr. Kenny Anthony or who can stand up to him and tell him you are going in the wrong direction or what you are doing is not beneficial to the country, he is going to do everything to destroy you in the process. And I believe that is why the Chastanet family has come under such scrutiny by the Labour Party. Not because of economic power, but because of being able to stand up to Dr. Kenny Anthony and his policies in governing the country. And to add to this, if economic power and political power is so dangerous as Dr. Kenny Anthony makes it, I want to say to St. Lucians today, I would rather have a politician who can stand his own ground and have his own money than to have a politician who is controlled by a businessman. Because we need to understand that these same politicians who are crying about political power and economic power, they have businessmen they are affiliated to. They siphon all the money from the government through these business people. They give them all of the jobs so they can get their cutbacks from these same jobs. Yet still, they talk about economic power and political power. So you can see it's a game that is being played with the minds of the people of St. Lucia. Anybody would know that if you have economic power, that you can stand on your own 2 feet, you can pay your salary, you can take care of yourself, you don't have to depend on the government to give you a job, then you can pay your own medical bills. Look at what has happened with this government since they came in. They are destroying the economy because they do not understand the value of money. If we had a businessman running this country could never be in the mess that it is today. Now, going to your issue of the impacts and maybe the Jufali. I will deal with the Jufali matter first, because I'm tying it in together with the economic and political power. Why was Dr. Jufali chosen as our permanent representative on the IMO? Was he chosen because he has qualifications in this area? Was he chosen because he knows St. Lucia so well and that he is so well affiliated to St. Lucia? Or was he chosen because of his economic power? Was he chosen because he is such a wealthy man? So if you are saying that economic power and political power should not go together, why should you choose an ambassador on the basis of his wealth? And then he has not even represented our interest. You know why? Because he does not need to go and represent us. He wanted diplomatic immunity. And as far as I see, that is all this is about. This is not about St. Lucia. So the same government who says you should not have St. Lucians, and I want St. Lucians to understand this, because I've always said this government is against St. Lucians. They do not support St. Lucians. So the Chastanet family, who has done a lot of business in St. Lucia, should not be involved in any political office or decision in St. Lucia. But they can invest their money, they can create jobs, they can do everything. And Dr. Jufali, on the other hand, who Dr. Anthony said is going to build a research center for diabetes, can all of a sudden land with a St. Lucian diplomatic passport that gives him more immunity than Alan Chastanet, who's the political leader of the UWP. Because here's the situation. Alan could not plead any immunity. When he was taken to court, what happened? To defend $38,000 that he had no say in the spending of. But the same Dr. Anthony could have spent over 100,000 EC dollars to investigate $38,000. Now, as a businessman, what you would have done? You would have written off this as a loss. because you do not throw good money after bad. That is lost. $38,000. Let's say that something wrong was done and it was incriminating. You could not even file a case. You have to file a civil case. You did not even have a, and that's a lot easier to prove. And even that you would have lost. It further compounds the matter by highlighting that we have 4 lawyers in the cabinet of St. Lucia. And yet still, with an attorney general, they sued on the wrong premise. So you think I have any regard for these people and what they say? So it tells you that this is a vendetta against the Chasney family for standing up to Dr. Kenny Anthony and wanting to defend the rights of the people of St. Lucia. And it reminds me of one thing Sir John told me, the late Sir John said. When he was trying to convince me to run elections, and I told him I'm not interested in running elections in 2006, and that I was going to support him and give him all the help that I can. He said to me, you think I'm coming into politics for myself? I have done what I had to do. But I need to rescue St. Lucia from the hands of Dr. Kenny Anthony because he's going to destroy this country. And I'm not coming to do it for myself. I'm coming to do it for you, the younger people of St. Lucia. And you telling me I want you to run and you're not going to make that decision to run. I want you to run. That's the only thing I need you to do to win the seat in Castries Southeast. That is what convinced me to come into the politics. And I can tell you, we no longer have Sir John to stand up to Dr. Kenny Anthony. And look at what has happened to previous leaders of the UWP. Look at what happened to Dr. Vaughan Lewis. Look at what happened to Dr. Morella Joseph. Look at how we lost the last elections. Dr. Anthony is anxious to get a leader in the UWP he can manipulate and do what he wants. So the attack on the Chasney family is because now we have a champion in Alan Chasney who's willing to stand shoulder to shoulder, face to face with Dr. Anthony to defend the people of St. Lucia. And I believe, and I have much more confidence, based on the track record of the Chasney family, that they intend well for the people of St. Lucia than Dr. Kenny Anthony, whose track record for the past 14 years as Prime Minister speaks for itself.
Right. St. Lucia, this is Oak Mike, and we've now come to the end of the first segment of our program. We'll be right back.